7 bone-chilling wilderness horror stories that haunt you long after midnight. The night was darker than usual, swallowing the moon and drowning the whispering trees in suffocating silence. In the heart of the wilderness, something primal stirred, sending shivers racing down spines. The locals called it just another night, but they knew better. Legends echo through the shadows, here legends of travelers who vanished without a trace, and the haunting cries of those who followed, searching for answers but finding only nightmares. As the crisp air crackled with tension, the ground seemed to pulse as if the very earth were alive, breathing in fear and exhaling dread. Just past the old ranger station, a flickering light broke the void, illuminating an overgrown trail woven with mystery. Some said it was a trick of the mind, a deceptive glimmer meant to lead the unsuspecting into the jaws of despair. Others believed it was a guide, a beacon for lost souls. But all agreed. A chill rolled through the forest like a tide, thickening the air to a suffocating blanket. Something was out there, lurking just beyond sight. Perhaps it was the spirit of a hunter, still searching for the deer that never fell, or a child who once wandered too far and never made it home. Night after night, the campfire tales spun darker, weaving into legends of figures that danced just outside the range of sight, glimpses of eyes reflecting the fire, bowing trees swaying without wind, a shadow that flickered in and out of existence. Every whisper around the fire held a weight, every rustle in the brush an omen. People started to shun the woods. Even thrill-seekers turned back when the shadows grew long. Too many had heard the last screams of those who wandered in, never to return. Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the tension tightened like a noose, a pulsing dread filled the atmosphere. A pack of coyotes howled in the distance, but their cries seemed to carry an unusual sharpness, echoing with a desperation that tugged at the heart. Felt like a warning, yet no one knew what from. Fear hung thick, an invisible fog. And then, something broke through the branches, something large, dark, and undeniably alive. The fire crackled, casting chaotic shadows on frightened faces, and someone dared to speak the name that had become a curse, the Watcher. By morning, they say, only the echoes of that name remained, tainted by the cries of the woods. What truly stalks the darkness? The fire sputtered as eyes flickered between the campers, each breath lodged deep in their throats. The tale of the Watcher had a way of spilling dread into their minds, and it wasn't just a story anymore. It was a gnawing fear, a palpable thing that clawed its way into their hearts. What does it want? Alice asked, her voice barely a whisper. Her eyes shone with fear, darting around the perimeter of flickering light as if she expected the darkness to answer. Who knows? Tom scoffed, but there was a tremor in his tone. Maybe it's just looking for company, but the laughter that followed was hollow, bouncing off the trees around them like a bitter echo. Just then, the air shifted, and the unmistakable crack of a twig sounded nearby. Terrified eyes turned toward the woods, where shadows deepened and seemed to coil in on themselves. A thick silence settled, pressing down like a heavy blanket. I saw something move, Ben blurted as he jumped to his feet, the firelight illuminating his startled expression. It's out there, I swear. The others broke into nervous murmurs, but before they could settle, another sound rang out, heavy footsteps, deliberate and slow. The campers exchanged glances, each one feeling the primal urge to retreat, yet curiosity held them fast. Maybe it's just a bear or something, Sarah squeaked, but a hint of doubt crept into her voice, deflating any bravado she strove to muster. Or maybe it's the Watcher, Tom shot back, eyes wide. What if it's come for us? Around the fire, laughter turned to silence. They all listened, heartbeats drummed in their chests as the murmuring forest seemed to amplify the footsteps approaching. Then, a sound like a low growl rumbled through the trees, sending a fresh wave of fear crashing over them. "We should get out of here. Now!" Alice yelled, her voice lifting above the panic. But where would they go? They could see it, a darkness shifting at the edge of their vision, more than just a shadow. They hovered, watching, waiting. The flickering flames cast distorted shapes, but the eyes those shapes held were unmistakably human, or something eerily like it. With primal instinct, they huddled closer together, the bright flames pushing back against the blackness as if it carried its own weight of despair. "What does it want?" asked Sarah, her voice trembling, pulling tightly at Ben's sleeve as if he could somehow shield her. The footsteps grew louder, and without thinking, Tom darted toward the forest's edge, convinced he could outrun whatever haunted them. But just as he stepped into the darkness, a scream erupted, a mix of terror and disbelief as he was yanked back to the fire, flung like a rag doll against the hard ground. "Whoa!" Ben shouted as they turned, eyes wide with horror. The silhouette stood at the tree-line, no longer just a shadow but a shape, a figure wrapped in tattered clothes, face hidden within a deep hood. A raspy voice cut through the night. "You've come too far now, you can never leave." A rush of panic set in. They scrambled to their feet, adrenaline pumping hard. As they backed away, the flames sputtered low, threatening to extinguish completely. In that moment of desperation, light flickered, revealing the figure's pale, glinting eyes that locked onto theirs, piercing through the growing gloom. "What do you want from us?" Tom demanded, trembling, hoping his voice wouldn't betray him. The answer hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Nothing moved but the wind sighing through the branches. And then, the figure took a step forward, a menacing smile creeping slowly across its face. Just as the fire seemed on the brink of dying down, a sudden burst of flame shot up, illuminating the forest with wild shadows. And then, it began to laugh, a deep, echoing sound that melded with the rustling trees, sending a chill down their spines. What other horrors lay hidden just beyond the edge of the flames? What truth did the watcher hold? As they stood, hearts racing, it became painfully clear that night was far from over. The laughter faded into the night, but its echo remained a sinister ghost that twisted through the trees. Alice felt her breath quicken. She couldn't tell if it was fear or some primal instinct screaming for her to run. What do we do?" Sarah stammered, her grip tightening on Ben. The campfire flickered, its light casting desperate shadows that danced around them, teasing, mocking their fear. "Just stay together," Tom said, his bravado cracking. He inched closer to the fire, willing its warmth to hold off the encroaching darkness. "We've got to think. As long as we're here, we're safe." But as he spoke, the figure stepped fully into view, and the campfire light refracted off its eyes, reflecting back a madness that sent a shiver racing down Ben's spine. It wore a tattered coat that hung loosely on its bony frame, and every step it took crunched dead leaves and twigs, a melody of despair resonating through the still night. "Safe?" Alice shot back, her voice rising. "Are we really safe?" It just pulled Tom back. "We can't." A low growl rumbled again, harsher this time, reverberating through the ground beneath them. It felt alive, a warning etched into the very air they breathed. "Shoo!" Tom hissed, trying to calm her. But panic had begun to overwhelm their rational thoughts. "Just stand your ground." The figure tilted its head, almost inquisitive, as if their fear fueled its delight. "Everyone thinks they can escape," it rasped, voice like gravel grinding against stone. "But this is where you'll end." Firelight flickered as they looked at one another, eyes wide with dread. A seed of doubt sprouted in Ben's mind. There has to be a way out. There's always a way. We just need to. But before he could finish, the figure reached up and pulled back its hood. What they saw twisted their stomachs. Its face was a grotesque mask of twisted features, a mockery of humanity. Sunken cheeks, hollow eyes, and a wide, too dark grin marred with teeth that looked more like the jagged bones of a predator than anything human. "Run," Ben whispered. "We have to run." Without waiting for anyone else to act, he dashed toward the tree-line, intent on breaking through the oppressive gloom. But as he turned his back on the fire, laughter wrapped around him, a sound that coiled tightly, pulling him back, pulling him down. He stumbled as if the earth was pulling at his feet, soft, squelching mud sucking him in. "Wait!" Alice screamed, panic surging through her veins. "Ben!" He fought against the grip of the earth, adrenaline igniting his muscles. Just as he struggled free, the figure emerged from the shadows, moving like a wraith, reaching out with bony fingers. "Don't look back," Tom shouted, dragging Alice with him, trying to pull her to follow. But as she stumbled, her heart rate spiking, her senses overwhelmed by the forest closing in, she glanced over her shoulder. Looking back was a fatal mistake. What she saw made her blood run cold. The figure was directly behind Ben, its eyes glowing with an unholy light, lips peeled back in a terrifying grin. And in that moment, Alice could see the darkness creeping around them, expanding like ink spilled onto paper. "Ben, run!" Her voice broke, desperation seized her. But it was too late. Ben turned, and in that instant, the laughter erupted anew, drowning out their screams. Shadows sprang to life as they engulfed Ben, and even through the madness, Alice felt the cold fists of despair claw around her heart. "Tom, we have to get out of here." Just as they turned to flee, another scream broke through the night, sharper and more agonizing than they could bear, a sound so terrible it shattered the very fabric of reality around them. With flames threatening to vanish completely, they sprinted toward the tree line, but the shadows closed in faster than they could run. Each breath became more labored, more futile. And just ahead, the darkness thickened, shifting as though it were alive, hungry. Sky above began to swirl, the moon flickering like a fading bulb. What horrors awaited them in that sinister darkness? Would they break free, or was escape a cruel illusion that would lead them right back to the Watcher's waiting arms? The night was far from over, and its secrets loomed closer. Alice felt her heart pounding against her ribs as she sprinted, the darkness closing in, a living creature hungry for her fear. The laughter echoed between the trees, wrapping her in a suffocating grip. "Over here!" Tom shouted, veering off the invisible path they crafted through the woods. He yanked Alice along, desperate to find a way out. His eyes darted back as the shadows shifted, swallowing any sign of Ben. "Where's Ben?" Alice gasped, panic squeezing her throat. The weight of the night threatened to crush her as they disoriented themselves amidst the thickening trees, branches clawing at their arms. "Shut up. Just keep running," Tom snapped, his voice strained. "We'll find him." With every footfall, dread seeped deeper into Alice's chest. She cast glances over her shoulder, half convinced that the figure with the jagged grin was gaining on them. The wind howled through the trees, carrying the laughter on its back, mocking them, drawing them back to the clearing. "Tom," she cried, "we can't keep going in circles. We have to." Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath her. Alice lost her footing and tumbled forward, earth giving way like a predator hiding beneath a false surface. Tom was there, grabbing her arm and pulling her back up, but not without a sharp pain stinging at her leg. "Are you okay?" he asked, breathless and frightened, glancing around. "I think so." She looked down, wincing at the cut blooming on her thigh, dirt mixed with blood. "We need to find help. This isn't just a prank anymore." "Help? Here?" Tom's voice trembled, a crack of hopelessness threading through. He scanned the dark embraces of the woods, recollections of the campfire's warmth dissipating into fear's cold clutch. "We need to stick together and get out the way we came." "Out?" Alice whispered, her heart sinking. The shadows deepened behind them, and from the corner of her eye, she thought she saw movement. "But Ben, we can't think about him right now. Focus." Tom pulled her roughly, and they stumbled back into a frantic run. The forest felt different, alive, each tree a looming guardian of horrors yet to be named. The chilling laughter morphed into murmurs, echoing through the night, twisting around them like a serpent. Without warning, a distant rustle joined the laughter, and Alice's breath hitched. It sounded like someone else. No, something else was out there, stalking them through the shadows. "What is it?" she whispered, fear dripping from her tone. "I don't know." Tom spat, tightening his grip and pulling her faster. But we're not stopping. The shadows thickened as they moved, distorting the path ahead until it seemed to disappear into a vortex of despair. She could feel a presence creeping closer, could taste the wickedness of its intent. Suddenly, a scream sliced through the air like a knife, chilling them both to the bone. It was faint but filled with raw agony, a desperate call gone silent. "That's Ben?" Alice gasped, collapsing onto her knees. Tears streamed down her face. "We can't just leave him. Listen," Tom growled, forcing her back to her feet. "We'll find him, I promise. But we need to move now." A crack echoed nearby, branches snapping like bones in the dark, and they both froze. Whatever hunted them was no longer hidden. It pressed against the veil of shadows, the laughter mingling with low, raspy breathing that filled the air. "Run!" Tom yelled, and they darted, the weight of despair pulsating around them. Each moment felt like a step deeper into the abyss. They had to break free or be consumed by the darkness. That as they rounded a tree, hope flickered at the edge of visibility, a faint glow that made both their hearts leap. But it came with a chilling realization. It was the campfire, its light sputtering like their chances. "Tom, we can't go back," Alice cried as they stumbled closer, feeling the darkness claw at their heels. But it was too late. The woods erupted with laughter again, a cacophony that filled the night with dread. They stood at the threshold of the flame, confusion battling fear as the air thickened. Just ahead, the figure stood, eyes glimmering. "Hungry. There's no way out. Little ones," it whispered, voice smooth like silk but coated with malice. What could they do now? With the laughter pressing against them, dancing like flames set free, they faced the terrifying truth that escape might not be an option. And then, above the chaos, in a heartbeat of silence, Ben's voice rang clear through the trees, calling out desperately, "Help me." Would they dare to return into the waiting darkness to save him? Or was it a trap already woven to draw them back into the nightmare? Thomas' breath came in short, ragged gasps as they stood at the fire's edge, heat flickering against their skin. But it felt more like an illusion than safety. The figure before them loomed, its jagged grin barely illuminated, teeth sharp and glistening in the dim light like blades eager for blood. "You're too late," the creature hissed, each syllable wrapped in maleficence, as if it fed on their terror. "Your friend is already lost." "No," Alice shouted, a raw desperation clawing at her throat. "Ben's still out there. We can't silence." It roared, a blast of hot breath washing over them, heavy with decay. Tom pulled Alice back, fear straining his hold. They had to act, but everything in them screamed to stay near the flickering flames, their last bastion against the encroaching night. Then, the echoes began, voices shifting within the trees, overlapping whispers that spilled secrets into the air. "Help him leave now, you can't trust him, what's happening?" Alice cried, confusion twisting her gut. The darkness pressed in, enveloping them, its tendrils reaching hungrily toward the fire. Each flicker felt weaker as the laughter resumed, gliding through the branches like a shroud. "We have to move." Tom pulled her away from the fire, every instinct screaming to escape the creature and its enticing symphony of madness. "The darkness is alive. It'll trap us there." But as they turned, they caught sight of a shadow flitting away into the trees. Was it Ben? Alice's heart leaped, misguided hope igniting a flame of bravery in her chest. She dug her heels in, desperate. "I saw him. We can't leave him. Are you insane?" Tom spun around, panic etching lines on his face. "That's what it wants. A distraction." Alice shook her head, denying his plea, her resolve cementing. "Ben's out there. We can't just let him suffer. Then we'll both suffer." Tom choked out, dread swirling in his eyes. He was right, but Alice couldn't back down. If Ben was within reach, she had to try. The laughter grew into a full-throated roar as they split into different directions, the shadows throwing themselves against the trees like wild animals desperate to claim their prey. The firelight faded behind them, the warmth extinguishing to a frigid chill. "Ben!" she screamed, her voice slicing through the night. "Where are you?" No answer. Just the rustle of leaves. Maybe something else lurking in the absence of light. Panic surged in, wrapping around her heart like a vice. Alice pressed forward, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She had to find him. Each step felt like walking deeper into a hungry mouth. Then she heard it again, the sound of her friend, echoing through the woods. "Help me, please." A rush of hope surged as she stumbled toward the voice, pushing through the underbrush, branches clawing at her clothes. But then, amid the chaos, the laughter shifted to something darker, infused with malice, and someone, a voice so familiar yet twisted, joined in. "Join us, Alice," an eerie echo of Ben taunted, stretching his name out like a lingering ghost, something off in its tone. "We're waiting for you." Her heart dropped. This was a trap. A cruel, sinister play. "Ben, no," she shouted, the desperation cracking through her voice. "Fight it. You can't save him." The creature's voice reverberated through the trees, mingling with the mocking laughter. "You're too far gone. Embrace the darkness." Alice felt her strength ebbing as shadows encroached, the weight of despair anchoring her. But she couldn't give up. Turning sharply, she remembered Tom's warning about the danger in trusting the darkness. She needed to find him, not succumb to illusions that wove fear. But deeper into the night, it felt as though the forest itself sought to entrap her, the ground shifting and tangling her feet. The shadows writhed like living serpents, coiling around her, pulling her down. "Tom!" she screamed, her voice rising in panic. "Where are you?" A moment of silence hung in the air, choked thick with dread. Then a whisper returned. "You're too late, Alice. Turn back or lose him forever." Just then, a pair of hands gripped her. Shoulders, strong and steady. Tom's familiar voice had an edge of desperation. "We have to go. It knows we're here." But as they prepared to run, Alice glanced back. The flickering light from the campfire had reignited, illuminating a horrifying silhouette, a ghostly figure that stood where Ben should have been. Its face echoed a semblance of her friend, but twisted and grotesque, all clarity lost in the depths of shadow. "We can't leave him," she cried, torn between loyalty and survival. And at that moment, it blinked. The figure tilted its head, a terrible smile spreading across its face, and sang, "You're mine now," with dread swallowing her voice. Alice and Tom turned to race back into the woods' suffocating embrace, pulse racing, not knowing what awaited them. The darkness concealed horrors beyond their wildest nightmares. Was anyone out there to save them? Or were they merely pawns in a game of terror, trapped in the wilderness forever? Behind them, a low, rumbling laughter followed, echoing, taunting, promising their destinies were about to intertwine in irreversible ways. What had they unleashed? Alice's heart thudded against her chest, as she braced for whatever lay ahead. The forest closed in around them, branches scraping against Alice's arms, the darkness alive with whispers that made her skin crawl. Each step felt heavy, like stepping through thick mud. Tom's grip, while steady, could do little to quell the deep chill spreading through her bones. The laughter lingered, echoing, whispering promises and curses all entwined in one sinister melody. "Maybe he can help us," Tom said, breathless. Alice shot him a look of disbelief. "Help us? That's not Ben. It can't be." "But if we don't help him," Tom began. But Alice cut him off, the panic tearing through her thoughts. "We need to find a way out of here and regroup. If we confront it, what does that even mean?" Tom nodded, eyes narrowed as he scanned the thickening darkness. They pushed forward, making their way deeper into the woods, gnawing fear mingling with the twisted hope of saving Ben. She could still hear his voice somewhere in the shadows, distorted like a radio losing signal. "Help me." It was softer now, pleading. "Please, Alice, I'm scared." "Ben," she cried, her voice cracking, barely a whisper escaping her. "What if we end up like him?" Tom murmured, a shudder running through him. "What if it tricks us into becoming part of this nightmare?" She couldn't answer. The gnawing shift from hope to fear, a tight knot in her chest, threatened to consume her entirely. As they moved, something cold brushed against her neck, making her freeze. She whipped around, but only shadows met her gaze, their chilling whispers slithering through the trees. Together we're stronger, Tom encouraged, his voice more resolute. Don't let it make you afraid. Heart pounding, Alice clutched his hand tighter. What do we do? It knows our fears, our weaknesses. It uses them against us. With renewed urgency they raced forward. The ground felt alive, shifting beneath their feet like it was thrumming with anticipation. Then, ahead, a flicker of light broke through the treetops. They stumbled towards it, hope igniting in their chests. As they drew closer, the light pulsed, stark against the encroaching dark, illuminating the chaos around them. Then Alice froze. The figures danced around the light, faces twisted in grotesque expressions, figments of her fear. They howled and writhed, forming a wall of shadows that threatened to swallow them both whole. Don't look away, Tom yelled, pulling her close again as she shielded her eyes. Focus on the light. But it's not Ben. It's a trap, she stammered. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of familiar voices urging her to give in. Why are they doing this? Because it wants to turn us against each other, he replied, his gaze darkening, revealing uncertainty beneath his brave facade. We have to keep moving. We need to get to the fire. Alice nodded reluctantly, holding on tight to the thread of hope as the light glimmered just out of reach. But as they inched closer, the ground trembled, a low growl sprawling out of the shadows. What is that? Alice's voice faltered, her pulse hammering her temples. Run! Tom shouted, pulling her back towards the dense woods. They turned but were met with the forest closing in, branches snapping to life, blocking their path. The foreboding presence pulsated around them, the laughter growing deafening. Tom, we can't go back. Tears stung her eyes as the shadows formed a swirling vortex, the horrific echoes pulling at her limbs. In the chaos, another figure emerged from the shadows, darker than before, eyes glowing with malevolence. And beneath that glint lay the faintest echo of Ben's voice, dripping with premonition. Join us, Alice, just give in. No, she screamed, reaching for a way out. Tom. But her scream came too late. The forest erupted as Ben lunged forward, the lines of his face morphing into something alien, terrible. Desperation clawed at her, and without thinking, Alice instinctively grabbed Tom's hand tighter, pulling him toward her, ready to fight against whatever lurked in the shadows. But the darkness was shifting again, something far more profound unfolding. Alice felt the weight of choice pressing down, confrontation or reckoning, save Ben or save themselves. As the shadows clung to them, gnashing and hissing, Alice and Tom steeled themselves. We can't let them win, she choked out, heart racing, knowing that whatever lay ahead would test them to the very core. Together, they charged into the light, not knowing what awaited them on the other side, or if anything could ever be as it was. And in that moment, the laughter hollowed around them, foretelling the final unraveling of their fates. What was lurking just beyond the light? The monster within, or perhaps something far worse? Alice and Tom lunged into the light, heartbeats thrumming in sync with the pulsing glow surrounding them. The moment they crossed the threshold, a searing warmth enveloped them, a sharp contrast to the chilling aura of the woods. It felt safe here, yet an unsettling dread etched into Alice's gut. As their eyes adjusted, they found themselves standing on an expanse of grass, bright and vibrant, seemingly untouched by the horror they'd just escaped. Surrounding them was an eerie campfire flickering softly. But there was something far more unsettling than the shadows creeping along the edges of the glow. Figures were gathered around the fire, familiar faces twisted in confusion and fear. Ben! Alice shouted, tears springing to her eyes. She ran forward, desperate to reach him. But the closer she got, the more the faces began to dissolve into nightmarish caricatures, stretching and morphing, blurring into an amalgamation of everything she dreaded. Stop! Tom grasped her arm tightly, pulling her back. We can't trust this. It's all a trick. Alice felt the rush of anger flooding her system, mingled with an undeniable fear. But he's right there, Tom. I can't just leave him. Can't you see? Tom's voice broke through the chaos, his own fear palpable. They aren't what they seem. What if we just melt away like the others? But Alice felt herself slipping into that desperation she felt in the woods. All at once, the laughter echoed again. A chorus of distorted voices mingling with Ben's cry, "Please, help me." A knot of dread coiled in her stomach. She stood torn between two worlds, one of heart-wrenching hope and the other a defining darkness. What was her truth? Her instinct screamed danger, but the pull of her best friend's face was almost magnetic as she hesitated. The fire flickered violently, illuminating faces twisted in grief, despair, and unknown suffering. The laughter morphed into cries, pulling at her heart. "Join us. Give in." They all murmured in unison, their eyes gleaming with something more than longing. It was hunger. "No." Alice shook her head fiercely, trying to push the encroaching shadows back with her will. "I want to become one of you. Don't resist. We can be together." Ben's voice rang out, but it faltered, splintering like glass. The figure he'd become was no longer who she remembered. The alien features seemed to shift yet again, shadows clinging to him like a shroud. "We can never go back," Tom cried out, fighting against the hold of the firelight. "Before we lose ourselves, we have to escape." The weight of his words bore down on her, pressing against her chest. Should she save herself, or dive deeper into the abyss in a last-ditch effort to recover her friend? "Run," she yelled, heart racing as she turned in the opposite direction, dragging Tom along with her. They sprinted past the flickering lights, ignoring the cries that tried to ensnare them, the sinister laughter only growing fiercer, echoing against the trees surrounding the camp. Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to shift again. The grassy paradise started splitting, revealing the dark, gaping maw of the forest below. Gnarled roots snaked out, trying to seize her ankles. "Keep going," Tom urged, determination etched on his face even as panic rose in his voice. Just ahead, they spotted a gap between the trees, a desperate sliver of freedom. Alice grasped Tom's hand tight and leaped toward it. But as they neared the escape, her foot snagged on an unseen root. She stumbled, losing her grip on Tom's hand for just a fleeting second. "No, Tom." The words tore from her throat as she turned to find him, suddenly swallowed by the encroaching shadows, yanking at his figure as the laughter crescendoed. "Go," he shouted back, eyes fierce. "Do what you must. Find the way out." And just like that, he vanished into the dark void of the forest. Alice's heart shattered. The madness threatened to swallow her whole, thoughts racing. Ben, Tom, who could she save? And in the blinding moment of despair, the darkness around her shuddered, almost as if it could sense her uncertainty. Alice felt the bittersweet sting of hope fading, replaced with the icy tendrils of dread curling around her heart. What lay ahead? Could she find Tom? Was Ben truly lost? Or was it inevitable that she faced what she feared? Without answers, she pushed forward through the narrowing trees. The darkness whispered, "Join us. Join us." The path twisted, knotting itself within her mind as she pressed ahead. Somewhere ahead, a final truth awaited her. But would she be ready to face it? The trees closed in, thick and dark, almost sealing her in their grip. Each step Alice took sent a shiver skimming down her spine. The whispers intensified, a cacophony of lost souls beckoning her to return. "Join us," they crooned, their voices blending in a haunting melody that echoed in the recesses of her mind. It felt like the forest was alive, pulsating around her, desperate to swallow her whole with every heartbeat. She fought against the sound, pushing it down deep, refusing to succumb to the despair that clawed at her. Tom was somewhere out there, and Ben. What had he become? She felt sick just thinking about it. The fear churned in her stomach like a storm. Suddenly, the path forked. To the left, the trees loomed ominously, branches twisting like skeletal fingers. To the right, a sliver of moonlight cut through the darkness, promising a glimpse of escape. Heart racing, she chose the light. Yet as she moved, the light flickered and dimmed, painting shadows with a cryptic flicker. A sharp snap echoed in the stillness, reverberating through her bones. Instinctively, she whipped around, her pulse pounding in her ears. Branches rustled, and a cold breath of air swept past her, tainted with whispers of voices she could barely decipher. Alice, the call was soft, yet chilling. Her breath hitched, fear tightening her throat. Was it the darkness playing tricks on her? Or had Tom returned? Tom? She called, her voice trembling as it cut through the stillness. Nothing. Silence hung heavy, the air thick with anticipation. Pushing forward, she felt the weight of every step. With her heart in her throat, she crept further into the vein of moonlight, desperate for signs of Tom. Shadows danced just out of reach, teasing her with images of distorted faces and anguished screams. Panic clawed at her as she grasped at sanity, her spirit wavering. Alice! The voice was stronger this time, raw, desperate. It sprang from the darkness, sending chills coursing through her veins. Help me, Tom! Without thinking, she charged toward the sound. As she did, a flash of movement caught her eye. A dark shape darted among the trees. Wait! She cried out, her legs propelling her forward as adrenaline coursed through her. But as she stumbled into the clearing, she found herself standing in a small hollow, the shadows creeping in on all sides. There was Tom, but he appeared broken, his body hovering near a gnarled tree, limbs straining upward as if being pulled into its roots. Panic surged through Alice. Tom, what's happening? It's the forest. Alice is trying to take me. His face was pale, fear etched deep into his eyes. I won't let it. She rushed forward, but the roots reached for her too, twisting and curling like serpents. They latched onto her ankles, dragging her down with vile strength. Alice! Tom struggled against the forces pulling him back. You have to fight. Don't give in to it. The shadows twisted and howled around her, the laughter returning, mocking her resolve. Join us. Embrace the dark. They cackled. No. Her throat burned as she screamed, defiant. She felt the strength of her memories surge, a flash of laughter with Tom, sunny days at the park, the warmth of their friendship. They spurred her on, igniting a fire she thought had been extinguished. With a sudden surge of will, she tore through the root binding her, teeth grit against the pain. She lunged for Tom, her fingers just brushing his wrist, desperate to pull him free. But the ground trembled violently. The trees moaned. The weight of darkness surged around them as if enraged by her defiance. What if it was all too late? Would she be consumed too? In that one fragile moment, the reality struck. Was this darkness a force that could only be appeased? Or was there hope in their struggle? The shadows whispered again, wrapping around her, but she fought with everything she had. We're not done yet. Just then, a brilliant flash of light burst from above, piercing through the branches, illuminating the clearing. And in the heart of that light rested a choice, the very soul of her spirit. Would it guide her true, or lead her into further despair? As the dark pulled back for a heartbeat, Alice realized she had to act when the moment slipped away. Grab my hand, she urged Tom, holding her breath. Do it now. But the darkness was having none of it. The shadows converged again, feral and hungry, snapping as Alice's heartbeat quickened. As she stretched out her hand, she whispered, Tom, hold on. Something shifted behind her, a presence awakening, a spark of fury against the darkness threatening to drown them both. And just as she was about to pull, another voice interjected, resonating with familiar pain. You can't escape this. Everything within her quaked. Who else lurked in the darkness? And could they tempt another choice? Alarms blared in her mind, and she realized time thrummed like the frantic beat of her heart. What or who could help her surge through the storm of shadows? Would Tom make it through the abyss with her? The path was no longer clear, and the choices weighed heavily. Determination hardened somewhere deep inside her. Together, they had to unravel what held them captive, before the darkness consumed everything they hoped to salvage. And in that moment, Alice understood she was more than just a player in the dark. She could become the light. But would it be enough? Or would they both become lost in the depths forever? The moment hung in the air, taut as a spider's thread. Alice felt her heart leap in her throat as she turned slowly, the moonlight flickering behind her like an old film projector struggling to keep the images clear. There, emerging from the shadows, was Ben. "Alice," he whispered, his voice soaked in despair. His eyes glinted in the dim light, reflecting a mix of sadness and something darker. "You shouldn't be here, Ben?" Confusion twisted her gut. Memories of their time together bubbled up, unbidden laughter over games, walks home from school, the time he stood up for her in the cafeteria. But this Ben felt different. He was hollow, a shell echoing the boy she once knew. "What happened to you? I've seen things." His words hung thickly in the air, a mix of warning and regret. "The forest, it changes you." Tom strained against the roots, his voice cutting through the tension. "Alice, don't listen to him. He is trapped just like I am." "No." Ben shot back, a flash of anger making him look fiercely alive. "You don't understand. The darkness can't be fought. It can only be accepted. You think you can just pull him out?" He laughed, a sound that echoed through the hollow, sharp and cutting. "You'll drag yourself down, too." Her heart raced, a tempest of emotions building. "I won't give in to this. Tom, we can fight it together." For an instant, the shadows that enveloped Tom flickered, revealing a glimpse of hope. "Please, Alice. I need you." His voice trembled, raw and frantic. "I'm still here. Don't let him deceive you." But Ben's expression softened, a haunting grin creeping onto his face. "You think you two are special? That love can conquer all? It doesn't work that way in the dark. The forest feasts on the weak like you." As if in response to his taunt, the roots tightened around Alice, dragging her closer to the ground. The sensation was sickening, a cold grip that felt heavy with despair. "Tom," she cried, reaching desperately for him. "Alice, don't." Thomas' plea was cut off, the shadows gathering around him like a shroud, and for a second, she saw panic flood his features as the darkness consumed his voice. The ground shivered beneath her feet, pulsing with a heartbeat of its own, a sinister rhythm echoing her rising terror. "You have to choose," Ben urged vehemently, his intensity rising. "Join us or be lost. I can show you the way. You can be free." Alice looked from Ben to Tom, her heart warring against itself. The urge to save Tom burned fiercely, but the temptation in Ben's words tugged at her heart like a siren's song. What if surrendering was the key to survival? "No," she whispered, shaking her head softly, firming her resolve as she focused on Tom, his eyes, pleading, fighting back against the black tendrils wrapping tighter around him. "You don't own me, Ben, and I'll never give in." As those words left her lips, the air shifted. The light from above flickered violently, washing over the clearing, illuminating Ben's face with clarity. For the first time, she noticed the faint lines of pain and loss etched on his skin, the weariness of a boy who had fought the dark and lost. But the affection, the warmth that once defined their friendship, was still flickering deep inside her. "Tom." In her heartbeat, the world felt alive again. She drove her hand lower, into the cold earth, channeling all her love and fear. "Hold on to me." And for a fleeting moment, the shadows receded just enough to allow Thomas' eyes to shine, reflecting the determination she felt swelling inside her. But chaos erupted, the darkness screeched, an agonizing wail that pierced her consciousness. The gnarled roots slashed at her sharply, desperate to reclaim their prey as they coiled and twitched. Alongside the growing cacophony, Ben's laughter echoed, derisive and mocking, merging with the whispers of the lost. The pressures of dread twisted her stomach into knots. Would Tom remain lost to the abyss? Could she truly find the strength to pull him back, or would she follow him into the dark? The light strained against the encroaching shadows, daring her to act fast. What if she hesitated, a sudden thought gripping her? What if Ben is right? But the idea sent a jolt of defiance through her. She would not take that road. She refused to yield to despair. With all the strength she could summon, Alice gripped Thomas' wrist, determined to fight the darkness with everything she had. Together, and just as their fingers brushed, an explosion of light ignited the clearing. bathing everything in blinding brilliance. But before she could catch her breath, a voice, a familiar one, hushed through the moaning trees. "You can't save him, Alice. He belongs to the dark." And just like that, the suffocating grip of uncertainty wrapped around her once more, the chilling realization settling in. The choices made now would determine everything. But was it too late for any of them? The moment of blinding light receded, and Alice stood poised between two worlds, the shimmering path of hope and the sinister allure of darkness. She felt the weight of both choices, hammering against her chest like the thunder of a storm. Where was Tom? Where was Ben? She had to choose, and she had to choose right. "You can't give in," she screamed into the swirling shadows, drawing breath through a tight throat. "You're not my friend anymore. Ben, you're just a monster now." The figure that had once been her friend flinched, as if her words struck a fragile part within him. The laughter swelled around her, mocking and relentless as tendrils of dark roots twisted around her feet. "You think you can escape? You are just like us," Ben hissed, his hollow gaze boring into her soul. "No," she said, voice firming with resolve. "You're wrong. Tom and I were stronger than any lies you tell." Tom's presence flickered in her mind like a dim star, pushing her forward. Pulling in a shaky breath, Alice made her choice. "I choose to fight." In that instant, the shadows surged with howling fury, a cacophony of anguished spirits swirling around her. She dug in deep, sending roots of hope flowing through her veins. "Tom," she called, desperation and determination intertwining. "I want to let them take you. Hold on." The moment she spoke his name, the dark mist surrounding him flickered, revealing his frightened eyes, alive with life still. "Alice, I'm still here. Don't let go." His voice trembled yet held that spark. With all the strength their bond could gather, Alice lunged, grabbing Thomas' wrist and pulling with every ounce of force she could muster. The world around them ruptured, light blinding the oppressive dark as the roots screeched, unwilling to relinquish their prey. "No!" Ben shrieked, his form twisting and writhing, as if the essence of darkness itself could not stand against their unity. "You will regret this choice." Alice felt an unyielding warmth blossom in her chest as she clutched Tom's arm. "We are not lost. We will not be a part of this." With a surge of mutual strength, they forged their way through the tendrils, an explosion of resolve igniting the air around them. Suddenly, a brilliant light shot forth, breaking through the shadows, engulfing everything in its path. The figures bound by dark energy melted away like ice in the sun, their anguished cries fading into the night. The oppressive weight lifted, and they found themselves, breathless, standing at the edge of the woods. Alice blinked, heart racing with disbelief. They were free. The towering trees stood quietly behind them, dark and morose, but the horizon painted with the first hints of dawn. There was a promise of light, warmth, and safety. "We did it," Tom gasped, disbelief laced with joy as he gripped Alice tightly. "We broke the spell." "Yeah, we did." She smiled, feeling the weight of impending freedom. But amidst her elation, a heaviness settled back into her heart. But what about Ben? Tom's face darkened, anxiety filtering back in. He turned. "He has gone." "Alice, are you okay?" Her heart cringed at the truth. "I just wish it didn't have to end like that. He was my friend." "I know." Thomas' eyes softened as they looked out into the fading shadows. "But we can't carry the burden of his choices. We have to focus on moving forward." Alice nodded, bracing herself against the chill that still lingered in her bones. She took a breath, inhaling the crisp morning air, feeling every part of her alive. "Let us go," she said, muster rising with each word. "We have our own lives to live together." As they walked towards the dawn, edging away from the forest and its haunting memories, Alice realized the darkness never truly vanished. It might linger, waiting in the corners of night. But with each step into the light, they forged a new path, one where fear no longer defined them. And that was everything. The sun broke over the horizon, warm and radiant, casting shadows behind them as they began anew. With hearts intertwined, their shared strength promised that the dark would never claim them again as they faced the dawn, Alice whispered, "We survived. Together." And in that moment, the shadows behind them faded away, darkness losing its grip as light engulfed their futures. Now, more than ever, it's time to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to this channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now. Your support is crucial for the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let us hear your thoughts. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. They'll thank you for it, and you'll be part of bringing more thrilling stories to light.